Tres. Hey guys, have you ever met someone from another country and realized that they were completely different from what you expect? That moment can be surprising, but it also makes us reflect on something important: stereotypes. In today's globalized world, people from different cultures interact more than ever before, but stereotypes can still influence on how we see and understand each other. So, today we're going to discuss how stereotypes affect the way individuals and cultures are perceived and whether these perceptions help or harm intercultural understanding. So, to begin, I would like to hear your thoughts. Do you think that stereotypes mostly create misunderstandings, or can they sometimes help people understand other cultures?
Well, that's an interesting question, Paula. Personally, I think that stereotypes mostly create misunderstandings, yeah. While they might start from certain observations, they usually oversimplify cultures.
Mhm.
Um, well, that's an interesting point, Myra. But I'm partly agree with you because I think that some stereotypes may start from real observations, right? But I think the main issue is how strongly people believe them, right? When stereotypes
Mm,
become fixed ideas, they can create like kind of prejudice. In
Mhm.
addition, social media is the best place for creating prejudice and stereotypes, and movies, sometimes books, TV series, and these stereotypes by presenting can be more like simplified or exaggerated, right? They could be
yeah.
images or some features of our culture, right?
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, Sebastian, because I think that the media representations like play a huge role in shaping cultural perceptions. And for example, I think that many films and like about different topic prepared like certain nationalities in very specific way. And for example, I show like showing them as always seriously, overly emotional, or even dangerous. And as a result, the audience may obviously like have a constantly adopt of these ideas without like questioning them.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Mariana. And because we live in such a network, these perceptions can spread very quickly. And at the same time, globalization also give us the chance to question those stereotypes. So when people travel, study abroad, or simply connect and interact online with people from different cultures, they often realize that reality is much more complex than those simplified ideas.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, intercultural communication can help like break down stereotypes. When people share their experiences and perspectives, others start like to see them as individuals rather than
Mhm.
representatives of a whole culture. And
Mhm.
nevertheless, I think stereotypes can still offer opportunities such as in education or employment. Yeah, I'm sorry, I say affect opportunities.
Well, I see what you mean, Myra, but for example, I just want to bring examples to our conversation, right? Because
Mhm.
talking about real context, right? Even currently in our culture, there are so many jobs that it starts that can judge the people just by, for instance, if that people has a tattoo, or in this case, for the men and the women, most of the companies ask them if they don't want to work with them, they have to cover the tattoo. Or for the men, for those men that love having the long hair, that's
Mhm.
a big judgment, and like that. Other examples, other assumptions like nationality, for instance, what will happen with the Venezuelan people here in Colombia or in other parts of the world, as well as in the United States, what they think about the Colombian people. because of our cultural background, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think these assumptions can lead to unfair treatment or discrimination, and therefore it's important to develop cultural awareness and critical thinking when we are interacting with people from different cultures. I think we need to take into account that when we are interacting, when we try to have a conversation with people from other parts of the world.
Yeah.
Uh, yes, Ocean, I still agree with you because, for example, in that part, the education obviously that plays a key role here, according to the um, to the discrimination and the different topic. And for example, if the schools like encourage the students like to learn about the different cultures, but in a deeper way, not only that a superficial way. For example, have different conversations with different persons, something like that. In that process, they can like questions about the stereotypes, for example, instead of simple accepting it. And moreover, like for example, this concept like this one can help us like to reflect on our own perceptions, and that's it.
Yes, that's completely true. For example, many people assume that if someone is quiet in a conversation, it means they are not interested or they are unfriendly. But in some cultures, like Japan or China, being quiet is actually a sign of respect and carefully listening. So situations like
Yeah,
this show us that stereotypes can easily lead to misunderstandings. So in today's globalized world, it is really important to question these assumptions and try to understand people and cultures more openly and even more as a teachers.
yeah, that we are training for that.
Okay, yes, and by listening to different perspectives, we can also like gradually replace those stereotypes with the real understanding, for example.
Exactly, that's what you're saying. You're right. Yeah, the more we interact with other people from different backgrounds, the more we realize how are the cultures, how is their belief, how is their assumptions, and how are they are dynamized and of course diverse.
Yeah, I completely agree with you all. In the end, recognizing and questioning stereotypes is an important step toward building a more inclusive and respectful global community. Yeah, but maybe the real question that we can set here is if we want to truly understand other cultures, are we willing to challenge the assumptions we already have? What do you mean? What do you think about this?